Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Suzanne Gundersen of Transformed Connections, where we offer stress resilience solutions that empower people to self-manage stress. I'm here today joined with my colleague, Chad Brown of Somatic, and we're here to talk about good stress versus bad stress. So before we get started, I want to have Chad introduce himself.
Thank you. I'm Chad Brown, and I am a former certified massage therapist. I don't practice massage therapy anymore, but I am also a certified TRE provider. And I teach other aspects of other modalities regarding stress management and physical recovery and that kind of thing. My business is called Somatic, S-O-M-A-T-E-K, which is a word that sort of combines two words, which is the actual word somatic, S-O-M-A-T-I-C, and technology, T-E-K, is sort of a little abbreviation for technology. So body technology, somatic technology, that's the origin of the name of my business.
Brilliant. Love it. So just before we hit the record button, we were talking a little bit about good stress versus bad stress. So everyone uses this word stress. They just kind of toss it around like it's this big wide world word. But how can we start to break that down for people to make it a little bit easier to digest? Is there really such a thing as good stress?
Yeah, so there's a word for good stress, at least one word that I know is used, and I don't know that it's used enough. I think it should be used more. It's called eustress, E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S. And that's just basic, the charge that we need to motivate ourselves to get through our day and move around about the world. And, that's psychological good stress. That's the stress we use to motivate ourselves to get up and brush our teeth and take a shower and go to work and go to work out and all those kinds of things. But our body also uses stress to function. So we were having this conversation before we started talking just now, where the body works in a balance of stress and release rhythm. So your heart is contracting, which is a kind of stress, and releasing, which is a kind of almost recovery from that little bit of stress. Our diaphragm is stressing a muscle to contract it so that it pulls air into the lungs, and then it releases into a relaxed position so that we can exhale that air. The body works with balanced forms of necessary stress. So stress is not a bad thing. It is the misuse of stress, and it is the inability to recover from high levels of stress or anxiety or even trauma, which is sort of trapped, unresolved, unrecovered stress. So yeah, stress comes in many different forms, and a lot of it's good and a lot of it's necessary. And for some of it, we wouldn't be alive if we didn't have it.
Right. If we didn't have any stress, we were just going to be laying around limp doing nothing, and we need
Well, our
something.
heart wouldn't be beating, so it would be worse than that.
We would just be laying around. So
Yeah.
I know you and I, we often talk about this, our favorite polyvagal curve from Dr. Stephen Porges, and how it really brought so much clarity to us to understand the different levels of stress. And one of them being, an appropriate level of stress, someplace where we can, have some excitement and curiosity and some playfulness that may exist in our world. But then when we go above that, that's when we kind of peek into those bad areas of stress. And we call them bad because if we don't have the ability to regulate ourselves and come down and discharge that overwhelm, then we can get stuck in cycles of chronic stress or even trauma. So there's kind of this we kind of show it in the chart that we like as kind of a little wobbly line. So I thought maybe I would just share it for everyone to see what we're talking about. And hopefully you all are seeing now a copy of this curve. So Chad, tell me what you think when you look at this chart.
I tell you, I mean, you and I have looked at this so many times over the last 5 years that we've known each other, and I never get sick of looking at this. And every person I show this to, whether they are interested in science or even specifically trauma science or stress science or nervous system science, even people who just don't have a specific interest for that, look at this and they understand their bodies better. And it's just so fabulous, this polyvagal curve visual image. But what we're talking about when we talk about good stress, if you'll see there, above social engagement baseline, the parasympathetic nervous system, or the ventral vagal aspect of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the green area. Just above that is, they're calling that the trigger line or the baseline. And then just above that, it turns orange. Now, orange in this particular visual is kind of referring to low levels of charge, but significant levels of charge. These just, where you see that squiggly line going into up below embarrassed and discomforted and unhappy and annoyed and worried, those are appropriate levels of stress. The levels of stress that we need to get through the day and move the body and become excited about things and become joyful about things. And, it bleeds into our psychology. Our psychology balances with different levels of charge and stress and that kind of thing. So in that very low level of light orange, that's good stress. That's necessary stress. As you move up, you're moving now up into a level of charge in the body that it starts to signal threat or imbalance of some kind.
And that
And that's where
in the body is that contraction of the body are those body systems that are elevating and increasing and it's wanting to go mobilize and do something about this overwhelm.
Right. So oftentimes when we feel this, we're feeling it because something in our body we either see something and we consciously react to it as a threat, or our body is, we talk about Porges created the word neuroception, which is our body's unconscious ability to feel for safety and threat at all times. We don't have any control over that. So a lot of times you are subconsciously recognizing something as a potential threat or something that will be destabilizing in some way, shape, or form. And that is where you start feeling that. Now, where that becomes something that we can influence, that we can balance, so we can't really, if our body really is like this and this is dangerous and we need to figure out how to figure this out, that's a natural system in the body that we don't want to mess with and can't mess with. But what we can do is there are ways of trying to balance what we can control or influence. We can't really control it, but we can influence it. And that is kind of what we believe to be dangerous and what is dangerous and what isn't dangerous, and what level of charge is appropriate for getting a particular kind of accomplishment done or effort done during the day. A lot of times we can get very programmed about everything needing to be very charged, and everything is about really, really hard work, and everything is about rushing, and more.
We just live in the times of the glorification of busyness, and that we always have to be mobilized and active. And yet, our bodies have a unique, resilience level that we need to honor for when we're going beyond those signals that says, hey, slow down, calm down. We don't need to be going this fast anymore. We don't have to try and keep up with the Joneses or whatever it might be that's keeping us mobilized, active, and busy. And I think it's high time we start to learn what that appropriate level of stress is. That way we can start to honor our body's unique resilience level. And then if we want to start to build on more of that, certainly we've got, helping people to be able to do that for themselves. But that mobilization energy is just been too glorified today to say it's worth something, it's got some value. And I think we need to have a paradigm shift into valuing the recovery. I know the last few years of my life, I've slowed down so much and had felt so much more connection in my life for it. I'm certainly keeping up with everybody else that seems to be running in place or looking like they're running faster, but really running in place in their lives because they're in that mobilized state.
Right. Yeah. And so, and it's different for everyone. It's about balance. Let's get back to that, sort of that self-regulation piece where it's about the balance of recovery and charge, or maybe we just say effort, the balance between recovery and effort. effort is motivating ourselves into creating a charge that makes us move into a focused effort of something that we want to accomplish or do, or get to the other side of, or protect ourselves from, or whatever that is. And then being able to then go into the ventral vagal parasympathetic aspect of our bodies and have an equal relationship with that part of the recovery, knowing how much charge I have experienced, whether it was consciously or unconsciously, and then allowing ourselves to recover appropriately from that particular level of charge. So if you do it, if you sort of try to quantify it in some way, let's say I do something with a level of, if you grade the charge from 1 to 10, in a sympathetic effort. If I do something at a 5, then I need to recover at a -5, right? So it's a 5 into the red, and then a 5 into the green, and the red is effort and charge and push, and the green is allow and recover. And so having a balance, understanding that those, just like your heartbeat, just like your breathing, is balanced that way, we need to learn to allow ourselves to balance. So even if our body really does experience a threat, right? So one of the reasons people become traumatized from an extreme event or environment is because they don't know how to recover. They've never been around people who recover at an appropriate level. They don't know how to hold value for recovery.
Right.
And if you don't grow up around people who don't value recovery, then you're sort of become an adult that is sort of lost in the world at how to, how much do I push and how much do I recover, and which of those is appropriate, and that kind of thing.
Well, and that's why we're talking good stress versus bad stress. And the good stress really is that green stress, is that healthy stress where we're feeling curious, alive, and playful and intimate. And then the bad stress really is when we're unable to come back down off of that aliveness state and be regulated back into calm again. We don't want to live like, just sitting there doing nothing. But our body can't stand the intensity of living in the extremes of either immobilization or complete freeze. And that's what we're kind of labeling as bad stress right now. And bad stress meaning we haven't learned how to regulate and come back down to green. So good stress meaning the happy, healthy stress that we need to function our daily lives, and the bad stress meaning we're trapped and we're unable to come back to the good stress, and we need some either support from some other person or some opportunity to help ourselves discharge that overwhelm. Certainly we do it through the techniques that we know, through the somatic type of regulation techniques. So I want to kind of end the video right here because we've been talking for a while. So I just wanted to say thank you to Chad for having this conversation today. And I hope you enjoyed listening to us. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section below, no matter what media you may be watching this on, or feel free to reach out to us, either one of our respective websites. The links will be in the description box of this video. So thank you so much, Chad, for joining, and we'll see you again in the next video. Bye, everyone.